Hey guys, your mother and I need to talk with you, but you can call me Church. Now, this week, since I just got my Switch and I've mostly been playing that recently, I don't have a whole lot in terms of media to talk about, so this episode's going to be a little more rambly than they usually are. I did, however, watch through The Umbrella Academy Season 2. I really fucking love this series, man. Like, it's a whole lot of fun. It does its characters really well, and it actually weaves a compelling and consistent time travel story through both seasons. It sets up a lot of intriguing mysteries well, and it paces that out through the whole season quite well in a way that's not frustrating but keeps you engaged the whole time, and I do highly recommend it. I watched through the second season with my dad because one day I went over and I saw he was watching the first season and we watched a bit and he he really got into it. So I'm like, "Okay, awesome. Second season just came out. I haven't seen it yet, so let's watch it together." And so we watched the last few episodes of that together, and it was a really good time. I really enjoyed it. I have a lot of fun hanging out with my dad and watching new media with him, old media, because he's 74 years old. He is 50 years older than me, so he actually has a lot of unique insights, and since he was an English teacher and has been a therapist for years, he is good at discussing these kinds of things and he really enjoys it because the way we engage with each other in those discussions is something that he hasn't had basically since he was a teacher. So we have a lot of fun doing that. We watch a movie and then go out on his porch and smoke a cigar and just talk about it, and it's really fun. I really enjoy that, and I'm glad I've got that with my dad. I may actually be going over there this afternoon. We kind of have reason to celebrate because on Friday I did get a call back from the employer that I was interviewed with, and she definitely wanted what I could offer to the company. And it's funny because they couldn't do my initial asking price for my wages, so I said I'll call you back in the afternoon. I'll think over it. And I called my dad, because I talked to him a lot for advice and such, and he told me he'd kick my fucking ass if I didn't take the job. But really, I am excited for this job. I'm okay with the lower wage initially because I'm kind of going in there to build up their system, make it far more efficient, figure out the administration, and help them build a better environment for healthcare and patient care. And so I have a good feeling that, building something, I'm going to have a good stake in it. So as I'm able to help them grow, the wages will grow with it proportionally. And I honestly like that. I like going in and building something. System and operational management is one of my specialties and one of the things I get a lot of fulfillment from in a job. So I think it's going to be good. And, having that new job to look forward to starting today, the day the podcast drops, is, doing well for my mood. It's keeping me motivated. I've been pretty good at not slumping into a depression during these last few weeks, but this makes it even more manageable for me, and that's good. I am a bit worried though, because last Saturday, I was taking a nap, and there's a pounding at the door, and I wake up violently if I'm woken by anything but an alarm or something. I, shoot straight up. I start yelling. I'm very aggressive. I walk towards whatever the fuck is interrupting my sleep. And that came to the point where my mom used to come in on the weekends, and she'd just open the door and, say, "Hello, good morning." And I would bust out of my bed, start walking towards her, just cursing, "What the fuck are you doing? Who the fuck are you?" To the point where she just would call. Like, she wouldn't even knock on my door anymore in those instances, just because I was fucking terrifying. So I'm napping on Saturday, and someone knocks on my door, and I get up, cursing and yelling, and I'm like, "Oh, sorry, I'll be right there." So I'm like, "Oh, it's probably my mom or something." And then I open the door, and this guy who's lived down the street from me in South Lyman my whole life is holding this, moving bag, and he's like, "Hey, didn't your mom tell you I was coming?" And I was like, "No." And so it turns out he was wanting to get rid of his cat, just because he's not a cat person. So this was just a rescue animal that he'd been taking care of. Had all the shots, was neutered, all that. And he just wanted to give it up to a good home. And so my mom told him, "Matthew loves cats. He's good with cats. So you should bring it to him." And of fucking course, she just doesn't tell me. So poor Kevin, terrified by my waking ritual, hands over the cat. And I open him up in the back room where I've got the cat box and all that. He gives me all this food and everything. But and I saw him a few times, hiding, of course, in the first few days. But I just have not seen him since. And I understand cats sometimes hide for like 2 weeks before they're comfortable coming out and interacting in a new place, but it still makes me nervous. It's been a week since then, so I'm hoping he starts coming out and engaging and being a good pet. He's a very sweet cat. He's a pretty cat, and I think he's going to be a good fit once he feels more comfortable. But I mean, you get nervous. You're like, "Oh, is he even still in the fucking house?" I have another cat, so any proof that he's around could be chalked up, like his food going down, or the cat box being used could just be Suchong. But I'm hoping he comes out and it's a good deal. But of course, I'm a little nervous right now. Though with my, new Switch and all that, I'm distracting myself fairly effectively. I have been playing the shit out of Xenoblade Chronicles, and, I want to beat that and get the sequel once I'm through that one. But I've been enjoying it a lot. I like the light, cel-shaded style. Most gamers will acknowledge that cel shading is a very effective way, if you have the right art style, to kind of future-proof the look of your game. And it does it pretty effectively in this. Borderlands, one of my favorite game franchises, leans heavily on the cel shading, and it looks great. It's a lot of fun. Wind Waker, of course. No More Heroes. And the new Deadly Premonition actually uses cel shading too, which helps the art style stand out a little more, because it could look a little generic with just this weird fucking shit going on in it. I think the cel shading creates the tone a little better than, more hyper-realistic graphics would do on that particular one, especially because it's not trying to be a fucking powerhouse of graphics or even performance. It's got frame drops, but it kind of is a piece of jank as a product. It's entirely made to be janky. It's campy, to put it simply. and it works well. I I fucking love Swery, and there are some problematic parts in Deadly Premonition too, but it's more out of ignorance, which hopefully will be resolved in Swery's future titles. I mean, you can kind of see the same thing with Suda, but it's never, mean spirited. It's always lighthearted fun for the style, and it does its job just fine. Let's see, what else have I been consuming? Oh, I did start rereading Kaleidoscope Century by John Barnes. It's a sci-fi novel about just fucking horrible people. Just the fucking worst. And watching them be the worst through years and years, and this guy, every 20 years he goes through an illness. His memories are erased, and he wakes up looking 10 years younger. And it's a good quick read if you're sensitive to basically the protagonist doing horrible shit. I don't suggest it. It can be very rough at times, but it's a good quick sci-fi read, and if that's what you're interested in and you're okay with just the worst people, you might want to pick it up, check it out. Oh, and so recently I picked up a few movies that, were just old comedy movies that I really liked back in high school when I was a fucking stoner and a fucking idiot. And I had rewatched Miss March, which was a movie by the Whitest Kids You Know, which is a sketch comedy group that I think mostly still holds up. But the movie is just... The funny parts that I remember from it are still funny, but the rest is just, it's not super well paced. It's pretty cliche, and it's not as great as I remember. It doesn't quite hold up. There is still some comedic value in the good jokes, but honestly, it made me a bit disappointed in rewatching it. But then I rewatched Sex Drive, which was another old raunchy comedy that I was into in high school, and it's actually still super fucking funny. Like, it's an okay movie as an idea, but it's really funny, and I think it holds up fairly well. Now, the one piece of media that I don't want to rewatch again, now that I'm not a stoner, is Wilfred, a TV series where this Australian guy is dressed up as a dog, and Elijah Woods basically dog sits him for what did it go for? 4 seasons? 3 or 4 seasons, but it was one of those that I watched the fuck out of back in high school, and I got enough out of it then that I don't feel like revisiting it now would give me anything, and would honestly kind of lessen the impact of the show. And so that's one that I just don't want to engage with again. Kind of sad, but I'm okay with leaving it in the past. I'm okay with nostalgia tinting series entirely, and just being okay looking back on it. I think that's a valuable thing, and I'll keep it for that one. Fuck, this episode is going to be pretty short. That's really the stream of consciousness that I had. Right now, I'm gonna turn it off. I will try to get some new experiences over this next week. It might be hard. I got a new job. I'm still working through these games that I got initially for my Switch, but I will try to consume something new, at least watch a new movie and talk about that next week on the podcast. But for now, I hope you have a fantastic week. Love ya. Bye. No tears, don't fuck with more yet. Take what you can get. You're not my girlfriend.